Welcome to the AirCon Vault, recordings of the live streams from AirWiggle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors, A Sound Effect, Game Audio Learning, Kilohertz, Audio Kinetic, Soundcuts, Sugi, Boom Library, Sound Warriors, and AirWiggles, the online home for audio people.
Hi. Hopefully everyone's doing good. This is going to be a hour-long conversation with me talking about freelancing. Basically alternate title, things I wish I had known, but nobody really just straight up told me. And so yeah, the first half of this, I really want to talk more about just getting into freelancing, the start of freelancing and what that looks like. Again, things that nobody just told me. One of the things people ask me to talk about the most is getting clients. So I do want to spend a little bit of time on that. And then the second half, I'm going to go more into invoicing and contracts. And again, things nobody told me about those things that is kind of helpful to know. So, and then at the end, I'm going to leave a little bit of time for questions. So if you have a question, maybe write it down or spam the chat at the end. That would be great. I don't think I can physically focus on more than this PowerPoint. And hopefully I'm going to try not to make a PowerPoint boring for you today. That's my goal. I'm going to do my best. All right. I feel like a lot of things in freelancing are really strict, and it shouldn't be, honestly. Like, so many things are said to do one way and one way only, and I just don't think that's the case. But before we get into my whole spiel about freelancing, hello, I'm Christa, otherwise known as the audio industry news girl from Instagram. If you've seen all my videos, sorry, there's a lot of those. But for those that don't know me, I've actually freelanced full-time in audio post-production for 5 years now. Haha, slowly going insane. I do a little bit of everything from mixing promos to sound design for films. I dialogue edit everything and anything. And I even have been doing a little bit of game dev stuff. So, yeah, and I do all of that from home, from my rented middle townhome, tiny little spot. On the right, I've included a picture with a very professional mug, letting you know that I'm very good at my job. And then on the bottom are some companies that I've worked for in the past, which hopefully convinces you that I actually am kind of good at my job most of the time. With that being said, is everyone ready to talk about the exciting topic of freelancing? Woo! First, I want to go over the personality of freelancing, aka the vibes. I like to say that freelancing has its own personality, and there's a lot to it that, again, I wish people had just told me when I was starting, but nobody did. AKA, this is also known as the expectations of the career. So let's jump into some things that I wish people had told me, okay? First, freelancing can be lonely. Yeah. Most of the time when you're freelancing, you are freelancing alone in your studio, and you probably are not going to talk to a single soul all week. Now, for the introverts of the world, you probably just like threw up a little cheer. Yeah. For the extroverts, it could be a little depressing. Me, an introvert, it still can be a little depressing because, again, you don't really have coworkers or somebody to talk to or bounce ideas off of. I think a lot of people think freelance means that you make your own hours, you take time off when you want, you never have to answer to anyone but yourself, right? Wrong. Incorrect. True autonomy does not exist in freelancing, but you are on your own, right? You're still going to be answering to someone. That's just going to be the client, but it's going to change on a regular basis all the time. Instead of one boss, you have a bunch of bosses and they all have different personalities, and you need to learn all of those personalities. Even though you're running your own business, you're not completely your own boss. So freelancing is kind of like a unique beast in that regard, right? Like most other companies, you're going to have one boss that you go to. And then if you're truly like, self-employed, running your own business kind of thing, like you usually make your own hours, right? Like you're on your own time. But that's not really the case in freelancing, and especially not in audio freelancing. You're on other people's time. The difference is you get to just choose whose time you're on. So now that I said all that and depressed you, hopefully not though, you're like, wow, okay, how do I navigate everything if I'm on my own, but I have all this stuff? Introducing the power of friendship. And it wouldn't be a presentation by me if I didn't sneak in at least one Kingdom Hearts reference. So, yep. Again, you don't have any coworkers to check your work before you hit send. So, no one can make sure that you didn't accidentally make a mistake. No one can interpret something differently for you. Like maybe you just didn't quite catch what the director or whatever was saying, or maybe you just want to know if something sounds good or bad and you just listen to it so much and you can't hear it anymore. Yeah, you don't have any of those people unless you count your studio cat or your dog, which honestly, this slide was just an excuse to put a picture of my cat Suki. Isn't she pretty? That I photoshopped Chain on because I'm clinically insane. But regardless, this is why forming a circle of industry peers that you trust is so important, especially if you're already in freelancing or you're just starting freelancing. It is so essential for the survival of you in this field. And even outside of industry peers, finding a mentor. It has changed the game for me and my freelance career. And the only way that I'm able to do this for as long as I have is having friends, peers, and a mentor. So I really truly recommend the most comprehensive site I found is gameaudiolearning.com/mentorship. Shout out to Faith in the chat for helping to put this together. I do love the site. It has a whole basically anybody can apply to be a mentor, and you can search by field. So like sound design, it's more than just game audio, by the way. It has post stuff in there too. But you can search by field, dialogue editing, sound design, et cetera, et cetera. And then it has all the contact information for those mentors there. So it's very useful. I wish, oh my God, I wish that I had something like this when I first started, because I would have abused the hell out of it. So in a good way though. So yeah, I highly recommend to check that out. To sum up the power of friendship, basically you're going to have questions in the freelance field and somebody has to be there to give you answers. And it can't be Google, because Google doesn't have practical experience and Google is probably going to get it wrong a lot of the time. You don't want to depend on Google for everything. Things that will help you way more than knowing what parallel compression is in audio freelancing. Likability, the ability to read the room, matching people's energy. If you're an empath, congratulations. This is your time to shine. Dependability, consistency, and positivity are going to get you so much farther in this field than any experience. The ability to trust your instincts, having good intuition. This is going to come into play later on in the presentation as well. So remember that one. And basically, yeah, you're not going to get work in this industry based off experience. You're getting work based off your personality most of the time. Obviously, I have to put a caveat because experience does come into play. But honestly, I have gotten more jobs in my career just based off of my personality. And that includes like me being a dork, like me being a nerd. I've gotten jobs just because people know I like video games and anime. Like just me being on audio industry news, people are like, she seems kind of goofy and silly. And I get work with them not knowing anything about my experience. So most of the time, I wish somebody had told me that, because I used to panic about keeping up with, all the technology and all the things. And am I good enough to do this and da da da. Focus more on just who you are as a person, and you're going to connect with people that respect who you are as a person and like who you are as a person and vibe with you as a person. And that's going to be the clients that get you through. So now that I've gone over all of that, we're going to go through, where do I learn this shit? Basically, this is a choose your own adventure in the freelance game. You can either A, go to a higher education, so college, trade school, etc. You can skip school altogether and you can just go to experience. And that includes anything from YouTube tutorials, apprenticeships, finding a mentor, being a runner in a post house, all of that. Or you can do what I did and do both, which I liked. I got a bachelor's of science degree in audio. The official title is music industry studies with a concentration in recording and production and a minor in general business. But yeah, I just say I went to audio school because that is absolutely ridiculous. And then I did an internship And I freelanced after that for a post house briefly. That fell through. And then I ended up working for 2 years at a music retail store, which is now permanently closing. So, fun fact. um, but yeah, so I did both, and then I ended up freelancing. So once you have your schooling or your experience, or you have both of those things, you have two options. You can either become a freelancer, or you can get a full-time in-house position. Now, I've placed a unicorn under full-time in-house position to make it blatantly obvious that if you are able to secure a full-time in-house salaried, benefited with healthcare role somewhere, congratulations, you are God's chosen. You've won the audio career game. Never leave. So rare. But for the rest of us, we will be going the freelance route. And especially in today's talk, we will be going the freelance route. Specifically, I briefly want to talk about getting a degree, mostly because that's my experience and I got a degree. And I'm kind of passionate about this topic a little bit because I happen to really enjoy my experience getting an audio degree, and I feel like not everybody does that. So just briefly want to talk about it. So do you need a degree? No. Okay, next topic. No, just kidding. Do you need a degree? No. Can audio school be helpful? Yes. Yes, it can. Here are some pros of audio education. Build a foundation of audio knowledge if you don't have a lot. When I first started my audio career journey, I didn't even know what reverb was. And that's the truth. No idea. So clearly, I needed a very big foundation, which is why I went to audio school. Access to equipment, mentors, and alumni. Most people, this is just an assumption, but most people probably don't have 500K laying around for like an SSL or a Neve board. So having a school that gets funding for that and being able to like get hands on with all of that equipment, all the different mics and all the different cabling, extremely helpful. Also, you have mentors there, aka your professors, which you can go to and ask questions at any time, and you're basically paying to annoy them at all times with questions, which is how I consider it. And then alumni. A lot of the alumni at your schools go on to work at really cool places and work on really cool projects. So you have like a free networking connection that you didn't have to do. Well, you had to pay a lot of money for it technically, but included as part of your education, you get some free mentors and alumni. Internships, a lot of places force you to do an internship to graduate. My college did. But it did help me a lot. Exposure to new things and new people. Again, if you're an introvert, ideal for you. I was forced to interact with people on a daily basis, whether I wanted to or not, so I could graduate. Your peers may go on to hire you one day. And many colleges require a mastery of an instrument or music theory, which can benefit you in your career. Prime example for me, I actually was able to work on a commercial for the NFL because the director, for whatever reason, for that specific commercial, really wanted this bongo piece in the spot, and they needed a percussionist to record and put out a bongo piece because they had this very specific kind of style that they wanted and they couldn't find it anywhere. And I was hired because I'm a percussionist and I could write a bongo piece for this NFL commercial. So anyway, it can be very beneficial to have that like forced mastery of musical knowledge. Here are the cons of audio education. It costs a whole bunch of time. It costs a whole bunch of money. And it will teach you absolutely nothing about practical experience or life as a freelancer. Yeah, you're going to come out knowing nothing about the freelance field. With that being said, is it worth it? Again, don't want to spend the whole time on this. So I have a full blog post that goes into extreme detail, including questions that you should ask before you go to audio school that I think you need to get the answers to. And also I go into financial assistance. I happen to pay for my college all on my own. So if you're worried about that, I do talk about the ways that I was able to do that. Disclaimer though, I'm US based, so I talk about like FAFSA and stuff like that. I don't know how it works in other countries, but so now that you have your degree or experience or both, what do you do? Now you need to decide whether or not you want to build a home setup. This gets asked a lot of me. What do you need for a home setup for freelancing and audio? Like, what's necessary? What do I need to like invest in? What do I not need? So here's what you don't need. You don't need a giant board with like a million channels. You don't need outboard gear, that or at least that much outboard gear. You don't need, what is that, a Herman Miller $2,000 chair. You don't need Professional acoustic treatment. By the way, I pulled this image randomly off the internet, so if this is your recording studio, no offense, I'm not roasting you. Yeah, you don't need all of that. Now, sometimes people will rent studios like this for their freelance work, especially if they're doing like bigger theatrical releases. I personally don't do that. I'm anxious. I'm an anxious girly, so I like to be able to go into my studio whenever I want. Especially like if I'm like, "Oop, did I mess that up?" I don't want to have to like wait till the next day or like have to book time to go check that out. I like being in the comfort of my own home. So again, introverts unite. Um, to contrast that, here's my setup. Here's what I'm staring at right now as I present to you. Um, Featuring a keyboard I barely use. That chair broke recently. I'm sitting in a new chair. I don't want free marketing for Killabee or whatever. That chair broke. Holes at the top for when I misjudged the acoustic panels. And I am not set up for immersive audio or 5.1 at all. I only do stereo audio. I just don't do it. I live in a townhome. Again, I don't really have the infrastructure. I don't want to piss off my neighbors more than I'm already probably currently pissing them off. And I've done this for 5 years with this setup. And honestly, less than this setup because I didn't even have all this equipment when I was first starting. So I've been able to freelance full time in a full time role with that. Um, Now here's the things I consider necessary to freelance with. Like here's the things you really need if you're freelancing in audio. Okay, you need a DAW of choice. And sorry to break it to you, it's probably going to be Pro Tools. Just apologize to your bank account in advance. Maybe get a credit card and just cry like I do. And this is for audio post production. Now, if you're going into game audio, you have a lot more options for your DAW. I don't really think they care as much. And Reaper is probably the most widely used game audio tool or game audio DAW right now, in my opinion. But for audio post production, you're probably going to be using Pro Tools. That's just the reality of the situation. So many other engineers are going to use it. You have to be able to send sessions back and forth if necessary. But ultimately, it's your choice. You do you. I'm just telling you my experience. If I didn't have Pro Tools, I wouldn't be hired for multiple projects. You need an interface. Now, in my opinion, the interfaces don't really matter that much in audio post. You just need one. If you like red, get a Focusrite. If you like blue, get a Personas. Whatever. In audio post, we're not too worried. You know, if you're super worried about audio quality, you can look into that. To me, it is what it is. Most interfaces are decent nowadays, so just get what works. Headphones between the $100 to $300 range is probably good. That's what I use. You know, if you can get more expensive, do that. Maybe get a pair that's not just Beats headphones. Obviously a computer, duh. And then you need a whole bunch of hard drives, preferably solid state hard drives. I think I currently have 9 of them sitting on my desk, and I'll probably get more. Here is the most basic setup, continued. Other things I recommend, basically. Things that you don't necessarily need, but that I think would be helpful to you. Studio monitors. I get ear fatigue, so I like to have studio monitors. Isotope RX Advanced. I do feel like Isotope RX Advanced fills a hole that other companies still have not filled for me yet. I do think it's helpful to have other noise reduction plugins, but the spectral editor specifically of Isotope RX Advanced has saved my ass many a time. And I use it on basically every project. So I recommend it highly, almost a requirement in my opinion. And then also you're probably going to need a bunch of sound libraries. But all this to say, like, this is not like an expansive setup, right? Like I'm not working like a $100,000 studio. In fact, here's exactly everything that I use that I just showed you in that picture, if you're curious. I use the Focusrite Claret 4 Pre. This interface doesn't have a lot of gain. Other than that, I think it's fine. I use the Sennheiser HD 600s, I think is what they are. The open back headphones. I really enjoy them. I recently started using the Atom Audio A7Vs. Disclaimer, I was gifted these. However, I loved the A7Xs, which is like the same version of this, just like the previous generation. Loved these when I worked in music retail, and I loved them before that. So I unbiasedly like the sound of these studio monitors, which is why I use them now. I use Pro Tools, like I said. Occasionally, I do use Logic Pro for music stuff, rarely, and then Reaper whenever I do game audio stuff. And this is my exact screenshot from my purchase email from when I bought my Mac Studio. So if you want, you could screenshot that so you know the exact setup that I'm running right now. People ask me that a lot. And then RX Advanced, that's the blue thing. Shout out to Soundly, that's the black logo with the like white waveform. Soundly is an awesome company. It's really similar to SoundMiner if you don't know what that is. It's like a finder, like an advanced finder for your sound design libraries. But Soundly is really cool because they have extra tools and stuff included. The Samsung T7 drives, well, I think they're called the T7 now. They were the T5s. I think I have 9 of those. I like them. They're under $100 for a 1 terabyte. And they're tiny. They're tinier than you think they are. So great for portability. I use 2 condenser microphones, plus I guess this one, which is the MV7 from Shure. I think that's what it's called. I use an OMA mic every week for audio industry news. They're a really cool company. You can customize the grill or the like panel in the front, and then you can customize the color to like basically whatever you want. And they sound pretty great. You can hear it on Audio Industry News every week. And then I also love the Audio Technica 4040, the AT4040. It is, in my opinion, one of the best condenser budget mics that you can find. It's like $300-ish, I think. And I've used it professionally for like dialogue recordings and different things, and no one's called me out on it yet. So obviously works. And then I use Backblaze for my cloud backup, which I also highly recommend you have a cloud backup, because if not, I would have been in really big trouble sometimes. Okay, so we've gone over the personality of freelancing, getting a degree or not getting a degree, your equipment and what you need. So now what do you do? Now you got to get clients. This is the topic I was asked the most about for this presentation, so I'm going to spend just a little bit of time on it, and I also do think it's really important. And again, things that nobody told me when I was starting. So I'm just going to give my experience, but it is my experience. So there are 4 ways that I get clients. 4 ways. I'm going to go over each of them. The first one is my website. Now, this is the way that I get the least amount of clients. Okay. I don't really get people messaging me on my website. Now, what do I use my website for? I use it as a reference to send to potential interested clients that I get from other places. So I do think it is extremely important. I consider the website of a freelancer to be your resume. It's, again, freelancing is not a traditional job where you're like going in and having rounds of interviews. They're just looking at stuff and then reaching out and potentially hiring you. So I consider your website to be your resume. So you have to have all the necessary information on it. This is a screenshot of my website. I use Squarespace if anyone cares, but you can use Wix or whatever else. Here's some things that you should have on your website. Your name or company name. That seems obvious, but there are a lot of sites that people send me sometimes to look over that do not have their name anywhere on there. So it's like, who am I even looking at? You should have demos of your work or links out, like how I have links out to the videos where people can see your work. If you don't have anything that you've currently, like if nothing's out yet that you've worked on, or if you just haven't had the opportunity to work on anything that you feel like you could put on a website, use sound redesigns. Like, nobody in my experience has ever cared if you've done a sound redesign. They just want to hear your style, what you sound like, how you approach audio, what you specialize in. Just make sure you write sound redesign somewhere, because you don't want to accidentally like trick a hiring person or like a director into thinking that you worked on something really big. So just be like, this is not mine. But yeah, just post something of your work. Like, people want to hear what you sound like. And then a short bio, what you specialize in specifically, or what you want to specialize in. So, for example, if you are really into nature documentaries and you're like, yeah, I want to freelance sound for nature documentaries. That's what I want to work on. Put that in your bio. Be like, I really specialize working on nature documentaries, or I really love nature documentaries. People don't know what you want to work on unless you tell them. So you have to tell them. And really like spruce it up. Like, throw some bullshittery in there. I'm so serious. Not only do I love to work on nature documentaries. I also go on hikes twice a week in nature, and I go to the zoo every Sunday. I am so dead serious because if a director is looking for you to hire you for a role in a nature documentary, they want you to be just as passionate as they are about their nature documentary, okay? So, extremely important, put what you love in there, and then obviously have a contact form of some kind, be able to contact you, put your social media on there, which brings me to my next way and the second highest way I get my clients, which is social media. Um, if your website is your resume in freelance, your social media is going to be your cover letter. This is going to show companies why they want to hire you. Pick one or two social sites, ideally one. You're supposed to pick one, but two if you must, and make an audio account. And then find your niche. Mine happened to be audio industry news. Why? I worked music retail for 2 years. So I had all this built up knowledge of products, and I used to talk to brand reps every day. And then when I left that job, I kind of had this I missed it. I had a fondness for it that I just didn't have anywhere to put it anymore. And so I started doing audio industry news as a way for me to keep up with the industry, and it's just been really fun. So find something that won't burn you out posting about, that you really have fun with. And it doesn't have to be in front of the camera, by the way, like me. It's really hard to keep up with. Do like voiceover videos. Do, voice over something that you sound design that's really cool. Or don't do any voiceover. Don't talk at all and just do like a sound redesign. Vanessa who's in this chat, basically started doing this thing where it was like the video at top and then the sound design breakdown at the bottom. And it's like changed the game. And now so many people do that because it's such a great way to post on social media. So yeah, find your niche, find something that you really like. It could even be just you posting about cool stuff that you found. And then I recommend to keep your personal life mostly off your page. Somebody hiring you for a freelance job doesn't want to go through 47 pictures of your dog, your cats, and some flowers to find the audio things that you're talking about. So just keep it separate, and just show what it's like to work with you. Three, free way happens naturally, and it's your clients telling their friends and your friends telling their clients. This is something that just happens for you automatically as you work. Free bonus way to get clients. And number 4, welcome back to the power of friendship, part 2, otherwise known as networking. This is, in my opinion, the greatest way to get jobs is to have audio friends. I have gotten, hands down, the most jobs from networking or just from friends. Literally from other friends. Now, if you're like, Krista, that sounds counterproductive to have audio friends be the people giving you work. Isn't that like competitive? And to that I say you're wrong. Or at least in my experience, it's not that way. Sometimes people have scheduling conflicts. Sometimes people just know that you'll be a better fit for the job. Sometimes people just don't want to work on that for whatever reason. They've got other stuff going on in their life. Like, I have gotten so many jobs from other people that I have worked with in the past and then friends of those friends. And it is crazy how many jobs you can get from networking, but I don't really call it networking very much. It's friends. Reach out on socials to people that have a lot in common with you, and go in genuinely. Only reach out to people that you feel like would be like an actual connection, that you have actual things in common with. Don't go in with like a fake intention of trying to get a job, or you're only reaching out to them because they work on Star Wars or something, and that's why you want to reach out to them, not because you've looked at any of their other work or because you're like, oh, I get along with them or they have stuff in common with me. Like, go in genuinely. People can suss that out, I promise you, and you don't want that kind of reputation. So and you're networking right now in the at AirCon and in the chat and at this whole conference. So bonus. Okay, summary. Getting clients, website, your resume, social media, your cover letter, word of mouth, that happens for you free. Congratulations. And then networking, aka friendship. Now we've hit an extremely short intermission where I want everyone to breathe for a minute, look away from the screen, maybe grab a snack, get a sip of coffee, do a little stretchy stretch. Everyone's still with me? Yay. I'm about to dive into a perhaps slightly more boring topic, perhaps slightly not. including contracts and invoicing in the freelance world. Things I'm not going to talk about in this next section is pricing and scope, mostly because I don't have time in an hour. But also, Nathan Moody did a really good talk on this last year called Creative Accounting. I think it's in the Airwiggles YouTube. And you should check it out because it goes over all of that and it's very insightful. Yeah, everyone get their snack. Everyone get their coffee, their caffeine of choice. All right. We're now going to go into the rules of freelancing. This is what I call it. Basically things that like you have to do as part of your freelancing career that are like really dull and like the accounting side of stuff. Or are they? Welcome to freelancing, the career where everything is made up and the rules don't matter. And one of those examples is contracts versus vibes. I love to talk about this mostly because I feel like nobody else talks about this out loud and like nobody will say this officially. So here's me. I'm going to out myself and I'm going to say it officially. Should you have contracts? Technically, yes. Do I always use contracts? Technically, no. Remember this slide when I was like, trust your instincts? Remember that? Yeah. This is an instance where it is very important to know if you have that trait. Okay. If you don't have good intuition, if you can't see a red flag waving if it's right in front of your face, you should absolutely use contracts. If you do, however, happen to have good intuition, just know that vibes are an option. Not everyone uses contracts in the audio world. And I have talked to so many audio engineers who are way further than me in their career who agree with me. So I'm not crazy. Obviously, this is a use your best judgment case scenario. And please don't like do this and be like, well, Christa said when you're like in the middle of your lawsuit somewhere, vibes are an option. I don't want to be like sued, but use your best judgment. If you're not using a contract, you should communicate in some form of writing, the rate, the timeline, the scope. But I am here to tell you officially that there are so many clients in my life that I do not use contracts with. And in fact, I have several clients that I have worked with for years now that I never use contracts with because we formed a level of trust. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes when you're going through a workflow, like you're getting to know a director, you're talking about the sound, and you're basically realize at that point you're going to be hired on for the project. Now you're talking about, well, when do you want this done? And you're just kind of in a flow. If you're doing all that, like, wow, I'm going to sound design this, and then, wow, we're going to talk about this, and maybe we can, and oh, by the way, here's a contract where you have to sign these rights, and I want to bring up this, that, and the other. It's like, I used to do that at the start of my career. Do you know how many times I got ghosted at that point before I learned that vibes are an option? Yeah, so I just want to throw it out there. Stuff nobody says out loud, stuff nobody told me in freelancing. Do not feel guilty or like you're less than of a freelancer if you use vibes. You just it happens and nobody says it out loud, but I want to be the one to say it out loud. I use vibes sometimes, okay? I'm here to tell you. I want to talk about briefly how I keep track of my in-out projects. Now, I am neurodivergent, so I have to use a physical planner or I will forget my entire day exists at all. So I have a physical planner that I keep in front of me. You can use Google Sheets. You could use a paid app. Personally, I like to write stuff down in the planner. This is the exact planner that I use. I pulled the pictures from Amazon. Excuse me. I think it's like $10. I buy it every year. I have developed a category system for my planner, which took me 5 years to figure out. 5 years of me missing invoicing people because I forgot that I worked on something and I never got paid for that project because I just never invoiced for it. So I have developed a category system, and this can be whatever you'd like. This is what it is for me. I develop a shorthand for clients. So, for example, if the client is AirCon, the shorthand would be AC, and that is the designation that I now have for my books for all time for AirCon. It's just going to be AC, so that way I don't have to write out long names all the time. Any day that I do work for that company, I will write the shorthand, the project title, the hours, and then the money in for that day. If there's a flat rate, I'll just write flat rate and the money that is. Once I've done that, I highlight the amount of money that I made that day in pink to let myself know that there is an amount there that I need to invoice for eventually. Once I've done that, I make a green dash next to the amounts that I have now invoiced for, but not been paid. So I'm ready to invoice, then I do the invoice, send the invoice out, I put a green dash, but not yet been paid. Once I have been paid, I will then go back and highlight the amount in blue. This helps me keep track of invoices that are out, invoices that are in. If I need to go back and check on something, like what's going on. To me, this is like my journal, my diary, my schedule. Like I check it and end with it every day. I have to, or I am going to miss everything and probably not get paid for stuff that I worked on. Here is my exact invoice. So if there happens to be a client that sees this, they're going to be like, hey, that's Chris's invoice. I have included it here for you. I keep it extremely simple and like basic. But you can do it however you'd want to. I can even send this to you if you'd like, if you want the template. But here's something no one ever told me in invoicing: number your invoices. No one ever told me that. Start at 1,000 and your first invoice should be 1,002, 1,002, or 1,001. Hello, can I count? 1,001, 1,002, and so on. Now, this does two things for you. One, it makes you look really professional to have an invoice reference number. Two, it actually is kind of helpful, especially if you're chasing payments down. You can send clients like, hey, per my invoice number, blah, blah, blah. And they can type it in their email search bar and they can find your stuff really quick. So very helpful. And it's helpful for your accounting and stuff later on too, because like companies will send you payment and a lot of times they'll even reference that number for you. So extremely helpful. If you are on contract, you will likely get a PO number the company will provide to you. Underneath that, you're going to do a date and the payment terms. The date is the day you're sending it, not the day you're creating it, the day you're sending it, because under that is the payment terms, and that's going to be how many days from that date until they need to pay you. Now, 30 is the most common. The company will tell you what they want, but 30 is the most common. Sometimes you do get net 45, or in the actual worst case scenario, the bane of my existence, you get net 60. That does happen. It sucks, but it does happen in freelance. But yeah, and then all the obvious things: project name, unit price. Like I just threw in random numbers, but it can be whatever you want. Honestly, my rates go from all over the place, from low to high, depending on who I'm working with. So it just doesn't matter. Make sure you put your mailing address, and it's the actual legal address of where you live, because they're going to be using that for legal documents probably. And make sure you get the legal company name and address, physical location, because that's where you're going to be filing tax information. And yeah, you can do whatever you want. Again, you're running your own business. So if you want to put a picture of your cat in the upper corner, you can. If you want, I'm tempted. If you want to put a picture of yourself, of your social media profile, you absolutely can. It is wholly up to you. It is your invoice. You can do whatever you want. My client is late paying me. What do I do? Yeah, this is something that, again, I wish that I would have been told, but no one ever said to me out loud. Here is a fictional case scenario for you as to what I do. June 12th, I send an invoice out with my payment terms. It's net 30. July 12th rolls around. Still have not been paid. I will simply respond to the email that I sent with them, and I'll be like, hey, just want to make sure that I didn't miss something. What's going on? If you get paid, if you still haven't been paid like a week later-ish, I will follow up with them, reminding them it's a little late. And now I will also CC whomever I was working with, editor, director, producer, blah, blah. And I will be like, hey, what's going on? If I still haven't paid after that and it's like time has now passed, it's now past due. And I will be contacting them directly to inquire as to when a payment is sent. However, I want to say that I do all of these steps with a lot of grace and niceness. And I know there's going to be people that are going to freak out in the chat. I'm sure it's probably already happening, and be like, no, you don't have to do, you can not do net 60. You can do net whatever. And you have to be paid by this time. And da, da, da. I am here to tell you that that is a possibility. If that's how you do things, that's totally fine. Me personally, I have found that it's a way to burn bridges with a lot of clients if you're like really intense about your payment. Again, this is what nobody says about freelancing. So this is just giving you the option. You can do however. Because you have 3 options essentially as to how to handle late payments. Option 1, you can tell them you're going to charge interest on the total amount for each day it remains unpaid. Option 2, you can threaten legal action. Option 3, you can try to just sort it out and keep in contact with them. Like 9.9999 times out of 10, it's just it fell through the cracks for them, and they didn't do it intentionally. Like, they're not vindictively withholding the money from you. Most of the time, there's like that very rare instance. So it's like somebody being a dick. But most of the time, they're not going to do that. So I try to sort it out. If you do option 1 or 2, here's the thing, you're likely going to burn that bridge with the client. That's just the truth. Because the moment you say the word interest or legal action to a client, they're going to freak out. And I'm speaking mostly from like, I do a lot of work with like indie people and like not always huge companies. So in the times that I do work with huge companies, I do have a contract, and like that's something that they send me, and like everything gets paid and it's whatever. But I'm just telling you, like, if you're willing to burn the bridge with the client, then you can absolutely do 1 or 2, or if that's just the way that works for you, you can do 1 or 2. It's whatever you want. But again, I'm here to tell you that you're not like less than as a freelancer, like if you do it a different way. And the way that I do it is like, I'm extremely chill. And I'm pretty sure any of my clients would tell you that like I'm extremely chill about payment. And I put money into a savings for situations that happen just like this so that I'm not panicking. I recently dealt with a company that I did a lot of work for that went out of business randomly. They just went out of business. And I was extremely patient upon getting that last payment because I know that it wasn't the people's fault that I was messaging. And they also just lost their jobs. So like they don't care at that point, you know? And I did get paid. So all that to say, like, run things how you want. Like, I happen to be pretty chill about payments. And I go based off with the client, and I just give the client the benefit of the doubt because again, like most of the time they're not actively trying to screw you over something. We're approaching the end. Here's some things going along with saving money, putting stuff so you don't panic. You need to put 30% of income aside for taxes every time you get paid. So you get a check for $1,000. Okay, you get a check for $1,000. No, you did not. You got a check for $665. $335 is going to an account that you're not going to touch until you file your taxes, because we are going to have to pay a lot of money. And yeah, put money aside for slow months. This is how I have maintained my freelance cycle for 5 years, is putting money aside for slow months, because there's going to be slow months. You are going to have slow months. I'm here to tell you, this is the only way that I have been able to survive, is having money aside. So I'm not actively panicking. Woo, taxes, everyone's favorite topic. I don't have like a million years to talk about this. And honestly, I could probably do an entire hour long, maybe 2 hour long presentation on just taxes alone. Here's a short version. Do you need an accountant? Probably, yeah. Can you file without one? Yes. It is not impossible. You absolutely can. I recommend looking at books and not the internet, because the internet can be wrong and they don't have to like research. I just happened to glance over the chat just now and suddenly said, how much percent for slow months? Honestly, I don't have a percent. I just throw whatever like extra money that I have. Like, I'm like, oh, I have an extra $20. Boop. I have an extra $100. Boop. Oh, I have an extra $250. Boop. And I just throw it into an account that I know I'm not going to touch. So it's just like, it just accumulates over time. That's me. Again, I'm like neurodivergent as hell. So like, that's the way that works for me. But I don't know. You come up with a percentage that works for you. But anyway, yeah, I recommend looking at books for taxes, because people actually have to research stuff to go into books, unlike the internet where like people can just post whatever they want. And again, all of this stuff I'm about to say is US based. So like if it's a different country, this is probably not accurate. I don't know. I only know US taxes. Read those books on stuff. if every state's different, so I'm not going to say it's for your state, but in my state, I don't have to file additional documents and paperwork if I'm a sole proprietor, aka I don't hire anybody out to do anything for me throughout the whole year. I don't need like a business license or anything like that because it's like I'm just filing my own social security number, so it doesn't matter. It's just myself. The basic rule of taxes is if you do over $600 of work for a client, you need to fill out a W-9. If they have not asked you to fill out a W-9 and it's approaching the end of the year, you've done over $600, you should reach out to them. But if it's under $600, you don't have to, because it doesn't matter. You can file expenses, and you should. Snacks count, equipment counts, office supplies count, your rent counts, your car counts if you use it for your business, depending on your freelance thing. Your phone bill counts, your internet counts. All of that counts. Now, C note, I've recently realized this. So again, something nobody told me that I'm now telling you. The only way filing expenses might bite you in the booty is if you are applying to apartments or loans or other things like that. Fictional case scenario, you make $50,000 and you file $20,000 worth of expenses. You go to apply for an apartment. On paper, you now only make $30,000, so you don't qualify for the apartment. So just keep that in mind. It's definitely a delicate balance. Okay. We've reached the end. Woo! Thank you for sticking with me. If you've zoned out, now would be the time to zone back in, because this is about to be the most important thing I've said. And I know it's been a little all over the place, but I've tried to cram as much as I can into an hour-long talk. And I want to leave a little bit of time to ask questions, because I know there probably be some questions. Hopefully there are. Final thoughts, things nobody told me. Okay? This is going to be the most important thing I say. It's okay to work on VO all year. It's okay to take lower paying projects. You're going to have periods of huge amounts of time where nothing happens. You have nothing to add to your resume, and that is okay. This is about survival and strategy if you want to freelance consistently. Just to throw it out, silly things that I've worked on so that I can pay my bills. Anybody ever heard, "Thank you for calling Blue Cross Blue Shield. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. Yeah, I edited every single one of those phone prompts. Okay, I still hear it in my dreams. I have edited political ads. I have edited company training videos for like IBM and Lenovo. God, those are boring. All those videos that go in the VW cars that tell you about your car. Thank you for purchasing your VW Volkswagen. Yeah, I edited all of those too. I can't put that on my website. But did I do those things so that I could keep freelancing for this 5-year period? Yes, I did. Also, every audio engineer that you look up to is still learning. Every audio engineer you look up to still thinks about the same things you do and has the same fears that you do. Everybody that you are thinking about like trying to catch up to, you're a lot closer to them than you think you are. We all are a lot closer than we think we are. And lastly, you're running your own business, but you don't have to do it alone. Remember the power of friendship, my favorite thing ever, and the most important thing about freelancing. And that is the end. Thank you for listening. Please ask questions so I don't have to sit here awkwardly for like 5 minutes, and there being no questions. Hopefully that was insightful in some way, and I know that went rapid fire. Yes, you can pay estimated taxes quarterly, if you want to avoid owing so much. I will say that I get penalized for not filing quarterly, but it's not enough money for it to make a difference. It's like $100, $200 tops for me. And for me, I just do it all at the end of the year. So it is what it is. Yay. Thank you guys for sticking around. I hope it was informative. I can make the slides available after the talk. Yes, I definitely can. Let me scroll up. For the odd job gigs that are important when other gigs are low, how do you find those? Let's see. How did I get the ones? I got the VW job from my mentor. He basically was like, do you want to do something really boring? And I said, sure. I need money. Give that to me. Blue Cross Blue Shield came from somebody that I worked briefly for freelancing for a post house. I did some work for them. And they, again, were like, I don't want to do this shit. Do you want to do it? I said, yes. Yeah, I honestly, sometimes it just kind of falls into your lap. I don't really know. I wish I had a better answer to that question, but how much cold calling do you do now versus earlier? I don't do any cold calling at all. I did a bunch when I first started, and I didn't get a single job from cold calling, to be honest. So, um, yeah, it didn't help me at all. The only way I connected with clients was actually like becoming friends with a bunch of random people. Um, uh, can you tell about slow months, how often it happens? It changes based off of what you work in. So, like, if you work in, like, unscripted television, there's, like, periods of the year where it's really dead. Most of the time, it's gonna be, like, the first few months of the year because, like, budgets are getting into play, and, like, people don't wanna, like, pull the trigger on anything yet. But it honestly, like, every year, it'll just be, like, some random month for me. Um, some years it's worse than others. It's just, like, part of the freelance game. Like, you just never you just never know. It's always something. It keeps it entertaining, I guess. Do you think you should take on all jobs that come your way when you're starting out? Um, I think I did, to be honest. Um, but I think it depends on your situation. Like if you're financially secure and you're able to choose things a little bit more strategically, I think you should do that. But if you're like if it just depends. Like if you need the money, like take every work job that comes your way. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. Which is how I ended up working on all this silly stuff over the years. Um, when you do sound design for films, are you often supervising sound editor, sound designer, dialogue editor all in one? Um, yes, if I'm working on indie films, yes. If I'm working on a bigger film, either one that's going to a festival or has some kind of release, then no, I only will have one role, and it'll usually be like sound designer or dialogue editor. Um, you don't really do all of them for a big feature because that would be hugely chaotic and stressful. Um, yeah, and usually I just get paid a flat rate from them. I don't like get rights or like that's not a thing. Um, I just get like a flat rate. Let me, how do I deal with clients that don't give you a concrete or clear deadline or timelines? Um, they need the sound now but never specify. I ask them. Uh, hopefully that doesn't seem like a snarky answer. I don't mean it that way. But like if you have to hop on a call with them, hop on a call with them and just be like, "Hey, I need you to give me a deadline." Um because I'm the type of person that if I don't have a deadline, it's not getting done. And you can even say that to the client. You can say but say it in a nicer way. Be like, "Hey, this project is going to go to the end of my project queue unless you need this ASAP. I have some other projects that are coming up that are due a little bit sooner. But let me know like if this is something you really want to prioritize." That's usually what I do. Um, communication with your client is honestly key, and that's something about how I work is like I'm really forthright about conversations about timeline and about money. Somebody said make your own deadlines. That's a good point. You can do that too. If if you sorry, I'm reading the chat as I do this and I suck at multitasking. Yeah, you can make your own deadlines if that's something that you have to do for yourself. But I like to ask and get a clear deadline. This happened to me last year, honestly. I had a like indie film that I did that like a short film and they would not give me a deadline and I finally was like, "Please tell me a day that I need to send this to you." Um or I'm going to go crazy. So, and they did. Um, how do I choose one client over the other? Vibes. Vibes. Also, if it's something that I really want to work on, I'm going to pick the thing that I obviously really want to work on. Like if somebody hands me animation of some kind, I'm picking animation every time because that's what I want to work on. Um, but otherwise, sometimes I'm just in a dead period and I just take it because I don't have another option. Um, yes, vibes. It's my favorite way to run my business, apparently. Um, yeah, and then sometimes it's just like what I'm more interested in. So, um, like I got reached out to about the Girls Got Game job because I'm a nerd. And I was like, oh, I'm really interested in doing that because I also play video games. But I focus more on like the content. So like, do I really want to work on this content? But also prioritize the financial side of it. Like if you really need the money, pick the client that's going to pay you more for a shorter amount of time for least amount of work. That's what I do. Um, yeah. Asking on a call can sometimes be helpful rather than chasing down email chains. Oh, what do I think about sites like Upwork or Fiverr? Personally, I don't think they serve a purpose in the freelance field for me. Um, because I feel like people undercharge themselves. Like they should charge more for their services. But when you're on sites like Upwork or Fiverr, people expect a really low like fee. And so people are doing all these mastering services for like $25, $30. I think it kind of like hits the industry in a hard way. Um, and I don't particularly like that. I don't want us to all work for low money. I want us all to get paid more money and I want people to know how much it actually costs for our time. Um, what do you do when you're feeling creatively stifled and struggling to practice or research? I watch stuff that inspired me to become an audio engineer in the first place. So for me, that's Star Wars, that's animation, um, that's certain video games. Um, I go back and think about why I'm in this field to begin with and what I'm trying to do in this industry. But there are still moments where I am creatively stifled, and I think it's okay to have periods where you don't do anything and you recognize that you are creatively stifled and maybe you just need to rest. Uh, I think that's really important. You don't always have to research with your free time. That would burn you out and that would be utterly miserable. Um, what are your thoughts of AI and post sound? Oh God, what a topic. Um, uh, I think that it sucks for us in a lot of regards. Um, but I see how in some ways some of the things that have come out can be useful and shorten the time that we work on things. Uh, Again, I think it sucks for us. I think a lot of video editors are going to start using that instead of hiring audio engineers because they think it sounds good enough and they can't tell the difference between good enough and professional. Um, what's the best way to respectfully turn down a client? I lie. I lie. I say, "Hi, thank you so much for reaching out. Unfortunately, I do have a scheduling conflict that has arisen, um, and I'm unable to take on your work, but I do have some other recommendations if you'd like me to send them your way." I lie every time. If I don't want to do work for them, I just say I have a scheduling conflict, or I have too much stuff to take on at the time. um, yeah, I'm just gonna spend like just a couple more minutes answering, so that way I can give y'all a break before the next. Is there another thing today? Another talk? Um, that way I can give y'all a little bit of a break. Is there a possibility to rewatch the whole session afterwards? Yes. I think they're gonna post it to the Airwiggles YouTube. Pretty sure all the talks get posted. Um, the time. Oh god, the chat's moving. Uh, yes. The sites take unreasonable percentages off the top. Oh yeah, Upwork and Fiverr take percentages. Um, my previous clients furiously typing in the chat right now. Hopefully none of them sees this. Hello. Hello. Um, awesome. Yes, it is going to be posted. Um, only give your client the preview, but not the option to download. Oh, cool. People are answering for me. Yay! How many times you say no? Sorry, the chat keeps moving, so I'm trying. Anybody have any final questions? Please just post them to the bottom so I don't have to keep scrolling like a doofus millennial and losing my place in the chat. If no other questions, is Suki nearby? No. I fed Suki earlier, and usually she like goes in a little hidey hole after she eats to sleep for a few hours. Somebody asked how you get clients. I talked about that a little bit earlier in the chat, or not in the chat, in the presentation. So you can, when they post it on the YouTube, you can probably just go back and review. How do you get into working with animation? God, if anyone has the answer, please let me know. I want to work more in animation so bad. But I will tell you how I got one slightly animated related job is I posted on a random, this just tells you how crazy social media is. I posted, some random voice actress posted a thing like, what do you want to do this year? And I posted in the comments and said, I want to work more on animation. Apparently some employee who works for that voice actor has a partner who works in film who needed some sound design for animation, and they randomly showed my comment to them, and I got a job that way. So that's the only way I know how to get sound on animation. I wish there was a better way, but if anyone knows, definitely let me know. Reach out, DM me, let a girl know. I would love to know more. Yeah. Yes, I also would love to do more animation work. Did somebody just say room of merchandise? Are you talking about the stuff behind me? Because yes, yes. All the Command S stuff behind me in the background. I recommend contacting animation school. Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah. You can contact like different schooling and animation schools. The only thing I'll say about that is a lot of times the budgets for those are not the best. But you definitely can, especially if you're starting out in your career. I think starting off in contacting animation schools and just schools in general that are doing like film work is a great way. What social media platforms do you use? Instagram and I guess TikTok. But honestly, I just repost videos on TikTok. So yeah, mostly Instagram. I feel like that's the best, the site that makes the most sense currently. But also TikTok, I think would be a great one. There's not a lot of audio on TikTok, like audio focused influencers on TikTok. So compared to Instagram anyway. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm gonna end the stream soon. So again, any last words, anyone? It's now or never. Hopefully this was insightful. Sorry if I went really fast. It was a lot to say. I hope everyone is having a great AirCon and continues to have a good AirCon. And shout out again to the team, the Air Wiggles team, for putting all this together for us. I really appreciate it and appreciate all the work you do. And yay! Thank you. Yes, I hope it was great. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. If you have any other questions, message me or post in the Hangout chat, I think. And I will be happy to answer. I'll answer over the next couple of days, no problem. And I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for coming. Bye-bye.